Hi students, let's study ICSE 10th standard poem number 9, A Considerable Speck by Robert Frost. He's a great poet, and this poem is a very unique poem because he has converted an ordinary encounter into an extraordinary philosophical debate. A considerable speck. What is a speck? What do you mean by a speck? Any guesses?
Glance.
No, it's not a glance.
A very small part of something.
A very small particle. For example, when you're writing a paper and you might see some black dot or a brown powder, it could be a pollen grain, it could be a dust particle, it could be a flake of dandruff. That's a speck. But he's talking about a considerable speck, a significant, not inconsequential, unimportant speck. Often when we see a speck, we just brush it aside. So the poet was writing something, and just before he was about to put the period, that is a full stop, he noticed that a speck was moving. And ideally, he would have ignored such things, but since it was a white paper against a white background, he saw the speck moving. He saw closely and realized that actually it was an insect, a mite, a very tiny insect. For example, we have termites. So we have various kinds of mites. We have mites living on our skin. And see how deeply he analyzes the existence of the mite and humanity by just looking at what the mite does. So, as expected, when he saw the mite, he noticed that the mite was panicking and rushing here and there to escape the poet. For the mite, the poet is like God, omnipotent. The God, that is the poet, can crush it anytime, can lift it and move it to another place, and the mite has no power. And yet, he tries its best to escape. This is a survival instinct which all species, all animals have, even humans have this survival instinct. So there is quite a lot of things common between a mite and a human. Noticing the behavior of the mite, the poet thought that this mite is a thinking, breathing, feeling life. It's an organism with a mind of its own. I disagree with it. I think mites are just genetically programmed to follow some instincts. You see, animals, lower animals at least, they don't really think. They are just following their need for food, need for water, need for reproduction, and need to survive. They are programmed like that. But then we can argue that even we are programmed for the same things. Are we truly intelligent? Do we have willpower? Do we have free will? Or are we just following the programming of our brain, the programming of our DNA? Today, if you made a decision in anything, is it truly your decision? Or is it just that you were born and brought up and raised and influenced in such a way that led you to make that decision? Are you just a product of circumstances? So there's a lot of deep philosophical thought you can put in if you analyze the mite or any other living creature. But he goes beyond it. He says that because it was a living thing and it had feelings and emotions and a mind of its own, he decided not to kill it. But not because he had compassion like the communists had. Understand the background of this poem. This poem was written in 1942 at the height of the Second World War. We had the Axis and the Allied powers, if you remember. We also had the rise of communism. Communism versus capitalism. Do you know the difference? Have you studied this in history? Not yet. Capitalism is what is being practiced in Western worlds like UK, USA, France, where individual freedoms exist. Everybody has a fundamental right, and the most important thing is profit. You can do whatever you want to do for your own personal growth. You can charge whatever you want to charge. That is why things are so expensive out there. Medical care is so expensive in USA because they don't care about the well-being of others. They care about their profit. In communism, the individual is secondary. The community, the society, the country comes first. There, the government will impose rules. Your individual freedom and rights of property and other freedoms are secondary. Whatever is in national interest, that will be done. If they are making a highway, your house is in the path, you have no right to sue the government. You have to get out of it as per instructions of the government. You cannot earn unlimited profit. There is more equality of income. The government cares more about the weaker sections, the poorer sections, the handicapped people. And everything, all the resources will be controlled by the government. So both have pros and cons. However, the poet is a Western Christian. Communism was spreading at that time. Soon after the Second World War ended in 1945, there was a Cold War between USSR, that is Russia and the other countries combined, Soviet Union, and the capitalistic bloc. Some countries like India, Egypt, they remain neutral. That is called the non-aligned movement. We will study all this in history. because there was a real risk of a third world war. And if the third world war would have been fought with nuclear bombs, then we would have been bombed to the Stone Age, and the fourth world war would have been fought with sticks and stones. China is a communist country, and it is outpacing USA. So this battle rages on. So even at that time, there was a spread of communism, which the poet perhaps did not like. And he said that I am showing compassion not out of communism. And by the way, communism doesn't even believe in God. It's an atheistic philosophy. There is no God. There's just the nation. At least in public places, you cannot celebrate festivals, etc. in communist countries. It's a private matter. Whereas in capitalism, you have full freedom to believe in any religion you want. He was a religious person. He has taken many biblical stories. He has been inspired by biblical stories while writing this poem. For example, he makes a sentence that the speck was not something I blew from my mouth while breathing. This is similar to a story in the Bible which says that God blew air and created man. That is Adam. And the drop of ink which was not yet dried on the paper represents the floods which destroyed the entire earth when God told Noah to make an ark, a boat, to save some members of each species because he was going to flood the entire earth and restart life because it had become very corrupted. So the speck did go towards that ink drop. Maybe it tasted it or smelt it, we don't know, but it was disgusted by it and it ran and finally gave up. He accepted its fate. He knew that he's at the mercy of the God. And by God, you mean the person. Now the poet thinks that the mite is so intelligent that I will show compassion just like our God shows compassion and doesn't destroy us. And why should I destroy the mite when it is not evil? He's not harming me. In fact, he feels that the mite might be more intellectually superior to humans. Because at that time, humans were killing other humans. Millions of people had died during the Second World War. Billions of dollars worth of property was being destroyed. That's not a sign of intelligence. At least the mite isn't destroying anything or anybody. And at the end, he allows the mite to just sleep on the paper and goes away. But he is delighted at this encounter. It's such a simple instance in our day-to-day life, but it filled him with a lot of satisfaction because an intelligent mind can discover another intelligence. And he was surprised that he found intelligence in the places least expected. He was just being poetic about it. Hi students, this is AJ sir. If you found this video useful, press the like button. Also, if you'd like to enroll for my test series or online lectures, email me or message me on Instagram. Check my description for more information.